Hi YouTube, this is Raven. In my first video I said that I'm a survivor, not a victim, of a 16-year marriage to a covert narcissist. And now I'm a year survivor of a high conflict divorce to a covert narcissist. And I said in my first video I was going to highlight some of the mistakes that I've made, so hopefully you don't make the same mistakes if you're in a high conflict divorce from an abusive person. And the number one biggest mistake that I made was hiring a lawyer while in panic mode. And the reason I was panicking and searching for a lawyer was because my covert narcissist husband had put a gun in his mouth, attempted to kill himself, but it was all a manipulation tactic. He spent time in the mental hospital. When he got out, he came home with a moving van and a plague of locusts, his family, to take all of our stuff. Now this had been 8 hours, a week, after he put a gun in his mouth, and now 8 hours after he had told me over the phone that we were getting a divorce, that he shows up with a moving van and his family to take our stuff. And he also showed up with financial papers because he had been planning for a long time, I think even before he put the gun in his mouth, that he was going to divorce me. And he had financial papers, he had papers pertaining to child custody, and a lot of other things, and he was trying to get me to sign them, and he was using his family to try and coerce me into signing these papers. And I said, no, I'm not going to sign these papers, but I was in panic mode that I had to find a lawyer. So I went with my mother to meet with a lawyer that I'd made an appointment with. Well, the lawyer didn't show up. There was nobody in the office was closed, and he wasn't answering his phone. So I got very worried at that point. It's like, I've got to find a lawyer because I didn't know what my narc husband was going to do, because his parents were funding the divorce. And they have money and they have political influence. And in this part of the country, if you have those two things, you can get away with murder, pretty much. So I started calling around, and I went to the first lawyer that answered the phone and said that he would see me. Now, he was a very good lawyer. He had 30 years experience as a lawyer. But it was a bait and switch when he said he was going to take my case, because almost immediately after he took the case, he handed it off to his associate who had only been practicing law for about 6 months. She was very naive and very inexperienced, and that has led to the divorce dragging on because she made a lot of mistakes, and I didn't realize she was making mistakes. And the first mistake that she made is that she filed a divorce from bed and board instead of just a regular divorce. And I didn't realize what that was because I was very naive about the laws in my state. But a divorce from bed and board is a fault-based divorce, and it gives the other party the right to a jury trial. And so, of course, my narc husband wanted a jury trial because he claimed marital misconduct on my part, saying that I'm physically and verbally abusive to him, therefore he did not have to pay alimony, and he was going to prove it in a jury trial. And the lawyer at the time, she said, oh, this is just an intimidation tactic. He's not really going to ask for a jury trial. And I said, you don't know him. He's out to win. And, I didn't know at the time he had a personality disorder, but I knew that he was going to take it as far as he could. And if he could get a jury trial, he was going to want one, because narcs love going to court, because going to court's almost like going to therapy. They've got people who are going to listen to their story, and they're the center of, they're on stage. They're the center of the universe. They've got a captive audience. And I got worried at the same time because the issue of child custody came up. And I told her I was very worried because at the time I thought that he was still suicidal. And I was very worried if I let the children go off with him, what was going to happen is that I was going to get a call from the sheriff, and he was going to say, Miss Raven, I'm so sorry, you need to come down to the morgue and identify your husband's body. And the other thing I was afraid of is that I would get a call from the sheriff saying, Miss Raven, I'm so sorry, your husband has taken his life and the lives of your children. And I was very worried about this. I was scared to death. And I asked her, can we not file some kind of an emergency order, to have me have the kids, custody of the children for a while until he's evaluated by a mental professional, because I don't know what his diagnosis is. He was discharged from the mental hospital after 4 days. And she said, no judge is going to do that. We as lawyers, we try not to get involved in child custody in this state. You just need to go to mediation. So I went to mediation feeling like, no one's on my side at this point. And my lawyer should have been on my side, and she was not in my corner working for me. And we get to mediation, and the first thing my husband, he leans forward, is like, I want 183 days. I want 183 days. It's going to be 50-50 and nothing else. And I didn't understand what he meant by 183 days. I know now that he was asking for 183 days because the way child support is done in this state is that the amount is based on the amount of days that each parent has the children and their incomes. And if he got the children 183 days, he would have the children the majority of the time. He would not have to pay very much child support, if any at all. And he had been instructed by his lawyer to do this. My lawyer had given me no instructions whatsoever. And we worked out a child custody arrangement that I had the children the majority of the time. And he sent it to his lawyer, and his lawyer doctored it up and put a lot of things in there that I had not agreed to. And when I told my lawyer, look, this is not what I agreed to in mediation, I want to go back to mediation, she said, no. I mean, you're just holding things up. You need to sign this. You know, if you sign this, he'll probably drop the jury trial anyways, because that's what he's really after. You know, it was just an intimidation tactic. So I signed the child custody order against my better judgment. And, you know, when you give in to a bully, they don't back down. They just ask for more. That's how bullies work. So, of course, he continued to demand a jury trial. So then we go to financial mediation. She said, you know, he's going to back down, you know, once we, you know, present things to him. And we started out financial mediation where she says, you know, my client is in nursing school. She just wants a little bit of money to help her get through nursing school and, you know, to help her out with taking care of the children just for 2 years. That's all she needs. And his lawyer said, we can win a jury trial. And they kept this up for 2 hours, my lawyer giving in and giving in and giving in, and his lawyer continuing to say, we can win a jury trial. We're not paying alimony. So then she took me aside and she said, you know, Raven, I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned that they've got something on you. There's something on you. You've obviously been doing something. You're not telling me the truth. Because if you're, you know, normal people don't ask for a jury trial. And by this point, I knew that he had narcissistic personality disorder. And I said, he's all out to win. And yes, you're right. Normal people don't ask for jury trials. He's not normal. Well, you know, and she said, no, obviously there's two sides to this story. And you're not telling me all this, you're all of your side. So we went on to have a deposition, a pretrial deposition for the jury trial. And she caught him in several lies, but this didn't make him back down. He was still demanding a jury trial. So then another month goes by, and I get a call from her, I need you to come down to my office immediately and sign papers. And I said, you know, I can't take off work today. If you'll email the papers to me, I'll look at them. So I looked at the papers she sent, and they were papers, you know, to finalize the divorce. And one of them was a child support order where he was under-reporting his income. He wouldn't turn in his tax returns to show how much he made. And in the financial agreement, now he was asking for half of my military pension, which I don't have a military pension. He had convinced his lawyer that I'm going to get thousands of dollars a month when I retire from the military, which is not true. I'm in the Army Reserves, and the way the pension works is that you earn points each year. If you earn enough points each year, it's called a good year. And once you have 20 good years, you can retire. But you can't collect retirement until you reach age 60, which that would be like 20-something years from now. And he had convinced his lawyer that I was going to get thousands of dollars, which is not true because I'm in the Army Reserves. I'm not in the regular Army. And the equivalent of what he was going to get after inflation, if he got 50% of it, was going to amount to about $150 a month. But I couldn't convince them of that. So I told my lawyer, I'm not coming down to sign those papers. I'm sorry, I can't sign those papers. I never agreed to any of this. And, you know, she was just expecting me to roll over and just do it. And she got very condescending at that point. It's like, you're the one who's holding this divorce up. You know, the whole time you've argued and you've held... And I said, you know, no, I haven't argued. I've been the one who's compromised the entire time. And she said, fine, I guess I'm going to have to schedule a jury trial. So then I get served with discovery papers. And in discovery, he was asking for every gas receipt, every food receipt, rent receipt, cable receipt, phone receipt, every everything I'd spent money on for the past 3 years because he was claiming I was hiding money somehow. And I asked her, why are they doing this? I mean, he knows I don't have 2 cents to rub together. And she said, it's because they're frustrated. They're frustrated because you just won't sign these papers and move the divorce forward. Well, at that point, I decided, you know what? You haven't been representing me or my children's interests for months now. You're fired. So at that point, I hired another lawyer. And what I can say is that if your lawyer is not representing you, you get that gut feeling that they're not looking out for your best interest, the children's best interest. If they won't answer their email, they won't answer the phone, they're trying to get you to do things that you'd never agreed to do, they're not representing you. And you need to cut your losses and find another lawyer. So if you are going through a divorce, do your research. Don't hire the first lawyer you come across. That was my mistake, and I paid for it dearly in thousands of dollars, and still no divorce. Well, that's all for now. Be vigilant, be safe, take care.